Good afternoon, everyone. You're listening to My Conscious Dad right here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. It's a very beautiful Friday outside. And today we are going to be talking about negative emotions. Be Gone is the official title. So, Dad,
you think it's corny, don't you?
I do think it's corny. It's the begone part. And it's the way you said it when I asked you, what are we talking about today?
Was I a little over dramatic with that?
No, it wasn't over dramatic. It was cute. It was like, I had to say it in the voice too. Yeah. But what I want to know, what is it that you were thinking about when you added that be gone part? Because when I hear negative emotions, I think we're going to talk about letting your emotions out and experiencing, et cetera, et cetera. But then the be gone part kind of throws me off, and I think, oh, okay, maybe this show's going to be about not experiencing any negative emotion at all. So if you can elaborate on that.
I think it's a great question. First of all, the be gone part means that at a certain point in your conscious journey, you should be able to master letting go of your emotions at a certain point. And no, it's not about not feeling your emotions, because feeling your emotions in a healthy context is just part of the process. But at a certain point, you don't want to keep having the negative emotions linger around for days and weeks and months, or even revisiting them once they're gone. Once they're in the past, sometimes we keep revisiting them. So when I mean be gone, I mean like get off it. Let's feel the emotion, let it be the learning experience that it's supposed to teach us. And let's, do the self-reflection that we need to do upon ourselves to find out what kind of growth that we need to have within ourselves so that we can stay powerful. And then let's let the emotion go. Let's not store it. Let's not save it. Let's not tuck it away so that we can use it later on to either beat ourselves up about it or to blame other people and, to kind of guilt others and all that kind of stuff. All those nasty games that we play unconsciously. So be gone means let's let it go. Let's get off it so that we can move on with our life.
And then quote unquote negative emotions that we're talking about, sometimes I understand what you mean by playing games, those kinds of emotions, just being nasty in general. But what about the emotions that, if you personally think maybe being sad or being heartbroken or being upset, being angry, those emotions sometimes are associated negatively, whereas I think those are good emotions. Those are emotions that I want to experience so that I can get over it and get off of it.
Yeah, I think what you're doing is you're describing the distinction between somebody that is having an experience and they're deciding for themselves that it's a negative emotion. What you're saying is that you have a conscious choice to decide that they're not negative. You got to remember, we are the meaning maker to our own reality. So if you're experiencing what used to be a negative emotion like anger, let's say 3 years ago, that same anger, you would see it as a negative emotion. But the more evolved you, the more conscious you, the more aware you, has now transcended that meaning that anger now isn't a negative emotion anymore. It's you can now be neutral about the emotion or use the emotion, the anger as a gift to teach you something. So now you don't see it as negative anymore. You can see it as a positive. So I think it's more about how you're perceiving it. And that's the reason why we're having this conversation, because some people, I don't think they believe that they have a choice to see it as negative or positive. They think that anger is just a negative emotion or frustration is just a negative emotion. They can't see that they actually have a choice to see it any other way.
I don't think in the moment there's really any, not that it's impossible, but there's not really any way to see it as if it's positive. It's, at least for me, I know that it's possible.
But you can train yourself to get to that place.
Yes, like I know it's possible. I know it exists. Do I practice it when I'm angry? Do I practice it when I'm mad? No. It's like it just goes all out the door for me. And then later I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm actually really glad that I had that fight because now I know X, Y, and Z.
Okay, that's perfect. So let's address the later part. How much later do you look back and reflect and then decide that was a healthy emotion or it was a positive emotion?
However long it takes that emotion to run its course. So if I'm angry for 15 minutes, 2 days, whatever it is, usually it's not longer than like after I sleep on it.
Okay.
But that emotion has to run its course.
Got it. And I agree with you. So let's say 24 hours is the norm for you to finally look back and go, all right, that needed to happen. How do I know that? Because it did. And you start rationalizing it. And then now you can shift the perspective into seeing it as that it was a positive experience, even though most people see anger or resentment or being frustrated as a negative. In that moment, 24 hours later, you can see it as a positive, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, because we're talking about it, because you are more aware of it and you noticed it and you practice that, you're going to start noticing that anger running its course is no longer going to take 24 hours. It's going to be 12 hours, and then 8 hours, and then 5 hours, and then 4 hours, 3 hours, an hour, 45 minutes, 30 minutes, 20 minutes. You want to keep chopping it down till you get all the way into the moment where you're able to get angry for 60 seconds and then learn how to shift it and transcend it into, all right, I'm angry. This is supposed to teach me a lesson. What's the lesson? Wow, now I see the lesson. And then you're getting off it. Then you're allowing yourself to just, let it go does that make sense?
Yeah. The thing that I want to get across is that for me, the hardest part is letting the emotion run its course, or the most challenging part for me is letting the emotion just run its whole course, because I don't like being in that sad, depressing, in my room, dark, crying, upset, whatever that looks like. I don't like being in that place, so I don't want to let the emotion run its course.
Exactly.
I want to stop it.
That's right.
I want to keep talking to that person and keep fighting with them till it goes away.
So I have to. So you saying that now gives me the opportunity to paint a picture of what you're doing in that moment, so you can see it from a different perspective. When you're feeling that emotion, that anger, and you want to fight with this person or argue with this person, and you want to keep going down that road, what you're telling me is that you're in resistance to letting that emotion run its course. And the more that you resist it, it's going to keep persisting it. Whatever you resist persists. So the more you keep not wanting to let it go, you're going to keep giving it more power, and it's going to linger around long enough. So you got to realize that you're part of co-creating that anger to continue its process. You're now getting in the way of it running its course naturally, where you can just get off of it.
Yeah, I think there's still, even after you end an argument, or even if it's not an argument, just after you end and you're in that space, that thing that you're feeling, I don't know if it's like this for men, because men don't usually like to talk, but for women, we want to just get it all out. And then after the whole argument, even if it's an hour, there's like 30 minutes after where I'm like, oh, I got this, and this. What's he doing right now? Let me go pick this fight, because I have to get it off. Not that I have to, it feels like I have to just get all of this off my chest, or I'll never be able to move on.
And I get that. And so that's why there's a possibility that someone gets to show you, or you get to learn, or you get to realize how to cathartically let go of some of the negative emotions that we have in a healthy way. And one of the things that I do with my clients is I teach them how to vent or let go of this emotions. And I teach a lot of times couples, husbands and wives, or people that are in a relationship, how to properly be there for each other, to create a safe space for us to vent, to let it go and put words to it and communicate it, and act out the emotion, or use words to articulate how frustrated we are, so that we can get our point and land it without it being a jab and without the other person hearing it as an attack. So I teach all that. But that's a process that you have to learn. It's something that you have to develop. You have to be taught that. You got to practice it. So if and when you get frustrated, let's say you're frustrated with me, I would much rather you go to your room and then have it and feel unfulfilled with it, feeling, negative. And then you come back to me and go, hey, Dad, I got something on my chest. I need to get off with you. Can I clear with you? So the word clear means that you want to vent. It's a buzzword. Yeah, what's up? So let's go outside, or let's go to the car. So we go to the car, sitting there. Now I'm creating the safe space for you to vent or get off your chest whatever it is that's bothering you. In this moment, I get to see that I'm going to be a gift for you. I'm going to be that space to let you get it off and flush it off without hearing it as an attack. I have to realize that you're frustrated, even if it has something to do with what I said or what I caused. I got to be able to let that space be open for you in a neutral way so that you can flush it out and get it off. And so now in that moment, you feel safe enough to go, I got to let you know that what you said to me an hour ago really made me mad. And then I'm just going to have a smile on my face and then just be there for you and let you just, vent it and get your frustrations out. And then when you're done, I'm going to ask you, are you done venting? And then you're going to go, yeah, right? Because now you feel like, all right, I let it go. I put every thought and energy and word to it. Now that you've let it go, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to figure out how to clean it up from the responsible version. And what that usually looks like is, look, I'm so sorry that you got mad or you got angry. That never was my intention to cause that. What my intention was, and then I get to now explain to you where I was coming from when I said what I said, or what I was thinking when I said it. And so now I just get to be honest and authentic and go, hey, look, when I said that, I was only saying it because my fears came up. I was saying it because as a father, I'm afraid that you're going to hurt yourself, or those are my things. And I'm sorry that I projected that on you, but I felt like I needed to say that as a dad. Now that you flushed it out and you vented it out, now you can actually hear me. And then you go, all right, I didn't realize that. And I know you're my father and I know you mean well for me. And it was just the way that I heard it. And so now we're both taking responsibility. But that can't happen until I create that safe space for you to flush it out and vent it without me taking it personal.
Yeah, that was one of the things I was going to say, is that if I haven't gotten it all off my chest and you or whoever I'm having the conversation with is spending all of their time in their head thinking about how they're going to defend themselves later, that's when I get that knot in my stomach and lump in my throat, and I'm so just worked up and overwhelmed because I feel like I haven't gotten it all out, and even if I do, you're not listening.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to be in that place where I can even hear you when you defend yourself. So I'm sure this goes for everyone. That's why I'm sharing this. But I know that for me, if I don't have that clarity and that icky feeling off my chest and everything, I can't hear you. So I'm really glad that you said that, because I wasn't able really to put the words to it. But I just want to reiterate, I can't hear you. We can't hear you. Whoever you're talking to cannot hear you if they're still focused on their thing. Same thing with if I was coming to vent to you and you weren't in that place where you said, yeah, okay, you can vent. Let me go ahead and turn my brain off and just listen. And then afterwards, we can have a conversation about it. And I don't know if you have clients or have with their kids, but as a kid too, there's a lot of times where I want to vent and just say, hey, mom, dad, I don't like that you scolded me in front of my friends. Do you think maybe next time it could wait, or whatever that looks like? Parents want to defend themselves too, because
Absolutely.
they want to start with well, I'm your parent, I can do whatever I want, or
Yeah, because we have all of our justifications in our back pocket to pull out and trump anything that you got to say that you're throwing at us. But on your end, if I can teach you as a 20-year-old, 21-year-old to learn how to tee up a conversation with your parents such that you're explaining to them how to listen to you so that you have a lower percentage of them getting tagged, getting defensive, and then not even hearing you and then coming back at you with their defense. So how I would teach you this is to say, hey, mom, dad, I have something that's really laying heavy on me and my emotions, and I want to share it with you. What I need from you, dad, is to listen from a place of not taking it personal, because it's not an attack. What I need from you most right now is to listen from an open heart, listen from a place of being neutral, and know that this is my frustration. I got to get this out, and I don't want you to take it personal or taken as an attack. So you have to learn how to tee up conversations. Now, if you said that to me, all of a sudden I'm like, now my guard just came down. My guard came down, my wall is open, my heart is open, and I'm going to now listen from a more compassionate place. So if you learn how to tee that up, you're giving yourself the gift of prepping the people to listen from a place of not being reactive and unconscious and coming back with an attack.
Yeah, my favorite thing that we do, especially in the training room or even at work when we're kind of trying to give feedback or basically it's a good way to start by saying how we feel without making that other person feel guilty or feel bad. And the thing that we say is, my experience of you is, and the idea of that is to say, this is how I experience you, not that this is how you really are.
That's right.
Or that other people experience you this way, but sometimes you sound like a jerk or you sound conceited or whatever
To
that
me.
is. To me, that's how it comes off.
But adding the "to me" at the end, it makes a huge difference. Or my experience of you, like you said, my experience. So either starting off with, you know what, Dad, my experience of you is that you're being very arrogant right now. Pause. To me. Those two things right there allows me to hear it as not an attack, but more of how you're experiencing me. So I can be a little bit more neutral. But when you leave out the way that I experience you, or the to me, most of the time, 90% of the time, it sounds like, Dad, you're being a real jerk. You're being really arrogant to me, or you're being really see, I can't even undo it. You're showing up really arrogant, or you're being really arrogant, and now you're saying it to me, and I'm hearing it as though that's how I am as a fact. So now my ego wants to defend that. And so now my ego jumps in and goes, well, step aside. So my ego is telling my soul, step aside. I got this one because I'm good at defending. And then my ego wants to come in and go, wait. No, I'm not arrogant. You're not. And then now we're going back and forth. So it really helps to be mindful about how to tee up some of your negative emotions to the person so that you can clear it off so that they don't hear it from it's a personal attack or a jab at them.
Yeah, and what I also love about that expression is I have close friends that do work on themselves and interpersonal work, but sometimes I think that I can say whatever I want to them because we're on the same page or because they also do work like this. And I realized later that the way I said it, because I wasn't still using those tips saying, hey, in my experience, I thought that was rude of you to say that to that person or whatever. And sometimes because I know that they're working on themselves too, or they're a little bit more conscious, I'll just say, oh, hey, that was really rude. Like, that was really rude of you. And then later they're like, oh, wow, like, who is she to say all that? And I'm not realizing that I need to use that term with everybody and keep using it, because just because you're conscious or you're aware doesn't mean that you're always conscious and aware that that's what I mean.
And all the time. Being conscious it's not an ongoing every minute, every hour, every moment thing. It's, who can keep practicing it and be it a little bit more often than everyone else. So yeah, you're right. I think it's a daily practice that you should do in all of your communications. Start using the right words to help people not take things personal. You're kind of giving them a gift by using those and adding those little words. Hey, you know what? I've noticed that the way you showed up in that meeting appeared to me to be a little bit arrogant, and my observation was, you got to learn how to use those words to kind of soften it so that they don't hear you saying it as though that's the box that you're putting them in, or you're making it a fact that they're arrogant or that they're righteous. You're making it more that this is how I'm seeing you, or this is how I'm perceiving you, so that it lands a little bit more powerfully and neutral.
Yeah, I know that even for the two of us, sometimes we'll be at home and I'll say, oh, you shouldn't have said that. This happened. Somebody told me this after. And you're like, even though you're, very conscious, especially on a higher level than me, sometimes because of the words I say, you're like, whoa, wait, that's not what happened, and you start getting defensive too, or vice versa. And I have to realize like, oh, okay, Dad's not being conscious right now, or I wasn't being conscious and using the right words. Yeah. And afterwards I'm like, well, that turned into a whole big thing because we weren't communicating with the right words or using the tools that, we talk about all the time. And, we don't always practice what we preach. It's more like, just whenever we decide to be conscious, and a lot of the time, especially when we go home, I think we forget that, your family is just as important as all the other relationships that you're working on, your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your friends, whatever relationships, business relationships that you're working on, I think we kind of forget it too at home.
Absolutely. I'll be the first one to admit, I haven't mastered it yet. And there's a lot more work for me to do, but you have full permission to call me on any of that stuff. If you ever share something with me and you watch me go on automatic pilot and my ego jumps in and defends, you have permission to go, hey, Dad, I was just sharing that with you. You didn't have to take it personal, and you didn't have to react. I was just kind of sharing it. And then, that alone right there, I'll recognize that, you know what, you're right. I didn't see that I was doing that. So the best way to really practice is having other people that can call you on it. That's a gift to me, is when I have people around me that when I'm not showing up as my higher self, or when I get tagged myself and I'm responding out of automatic pilot, to have other people go, yo, whoa, that wasn't a diss to you. That was just, oh, wow, I didn't realize that. So that is a huge gift, is to have other people call you, and you have permission to call me on it. If I've never given it to you before, I need to give it to you 1,000 more times. Let this be one more time I'll see it as a gift, or I'll make a conscious effort to see it as, you being there for me and holding that mirror up to me.
And that's what I love about surrounding myself and us and our whole family and at work and everything. I love surrounding myself with people who are also working on that too, because we get to call each other out on those things.
And we're just kind of pushing each other up and pulling each other up with that permission to, get in there and call each other on that.
We have to take a quick break, but stay tuned for more of My Conscious Dad right here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.